The longer you stay, you begin to have diminishing returns. That's mango rotting. Now, if two things don't happen, you are locked in that trap. The first thing is a succession plan, because you know it's inevitable. The second thing is, what do you do after you leave? So you find many people have loads and tons of money, they've made commercial success, but that is their only source of relevance. And the fear is that if I leave, I'll not be relevant anymore. Forgetting that you're being there, you will get to a point where we learn, unlearn, and relearn. But the more you do the photocopy, the fainter it becomes. So there's a time where you need fresh ideas and fresh energy to augment the possibilities, then you create a new reality. So that guy that when he goes on leave, we are held to ransom, need to have succession. Use the same word for challenge and opportunity. The Chinese character for challenge is door of opportunity, same. So challenge is written as door of opportunity. The intrinsic nature of the Nigerian is that die-hard nature of his. And that die-hard fits into what I called the in spite of mindset. But you need to coach the Nigerian to switch from a mentality of because of to a mentality of in spite of.
Hello everyone, welcome to the coffee table. My name is Ugodre, and of course we do this once every 2 weeks, once every fortnight, where I bring in amazing business people, businessmen, people who shape the Nigerian economy and to a large extent the African economy. This is simply thought-provoking discussions that will channel your mind to where your money is. That's what we do at Nairametrics. We follow the money. And today I am pleased and super proud to have here with me someone that I was just telling him before we rolled the camera that I've been admiring his business for years and years ago. And so I have here with me on the coffee table Austin Okere. For those who may not know him, I don't know why you would know him. Austin Okere is the founder of Computer Warehouse Group, CWG, one of the very first technology companies that listed on the exchange. I remember back then there used to be like 3 or 4 of them on the exchange then, and so he basically paved the way for a lot of the tech companies that you're seeing, and he was one of the early tech pioneers of Nigeria. Welcome, sir, to the coffee table.
Thank you, Ugodre, for having me. I'm very pleased to be here with you. We've been trying to do this for a while.
Yes, sir. And I'm super proud I was able to find a way to fit into your busy schedule. So good to have you, sir. All right, so we start. I think we should probably just start from the beginning, because I was so looking forward to this interview, not just because of your business and who you are, but more about what I can learn and what our audience can learn from you, especially people in this entrepreneurial journey. There's just so much that you have, and we're also going to talk about what you do now at the moment as well at some point in the interview. But let's go back to how this all started. Like I said, I've been hearing of Computer Warehouse Group since maybe 2001, 2, when I used to drive past Surulere, and then I would see the building and all of that. So when did this start, and how did you start this? And why that name, Computer Warehouse Group?
Yeah, okay, it's interesting. Because people ask that question. Out of 10 people, 9 will ask, why Computer Warehouse Group? 7 will ask, when did it start? And maybe 5 will ask, why did it start? I think that there is a lot of the hand of fate in coming to be where we are today, or where I am today. So I was born in Ghana. My mother is Ghanaian. My father is from Okere in Imo State. And I did very well in my O levels, got into the A levels, and I didn't do very well at all because I was playing.
Really?
Strange, isn't it?
No, not strange. I mean, it sounds like something I did too.
So there were then 3 universities in Ghana, and you had to do A levels to go to university, and it was it's just the best that got into the top places, and then they go down like that. I wanted to do anything in engineering. I didn't get a space. I wanted to do, therefore, building technology or anything in architecture. I didn't get a space. I got a space in agricultural engineering, which was not me. I wasn't going for the lectures. University of Ghana, Legon. I was passing the test, but so the dean called me one day and he says, well, I have good and bad news for you. The good news is you've passed all your tests, but the bad news is that we have to ask you to leave. Wow, my heart fell. That you haven't met the minimum attendance requirements. And I just thought about all the people I'd said bye-bye to at home. You're going, you're a big boy now. And you're going back home to take the A-level again the next year, which I didn't even think I would do well again. So this was, as I was leaving his office, he probably saw that this guy is broken. He called me and said, listen, I know this is not your passion. There is a new department in the maths faculty called computer science. I can give you a note.
What year was this?
So this was in 1982. I can give you a note to Professor Odum, who was the dean of faculty.
That sounds Nigerian.
No, it's Ghanaian.
Ah.
And maybe they will have a place for you. Because it was new, there were a few extra spaces. And I went to see Professor Odum. And luckily, I got into this fascinating area called computer sciences. At that time, it wasn't a course on its own. So I was doing mathematics, statistics, and computer sciences. And that's how I got into computer sciences. But I loved it because anything numerate was my strength. And then happened what we call the revolution of Jerry John Rawlings. After my first year, we'd done the exam, and there was a revolution, and then he closed down the universities because we went on protests. I think the soldier man was like, these pampered children. A month later, they had not opened. 2 months later, 2.5 months. And then my dad said, listen, I'm not so sure when schooling will start for the universities in Ghana. Why don't you go to Nigeria and continue there? So I came to University of Lagos. At that time, the registrar, I think, was Mr. Okudu. And luckily for me, they didn't take their first semester exam before they went on holiday, which meant that they were going to take the first semester exam when they come back from the holiday. So I was able to join them in the second semester. I'd been doing the program in Ghana, so I cleared the exam. And that's how I joined them from part 1. And so I graduated from University of Lagos in 1986, and I didn't go back to Ghana. So that's how come about computer sciences. That was not my first choice. It's quite accidental, but with the benefit of hindsight, it was just the right step for me.
Interesting. So when you were done with school, I guess you went straight from 9 to 5? And was it the same line, computer?
Well, it was. So when I finished, I did my youth corps in a place called NNPC, which you know about. The head office was in Falomo there. I was in the department called ETDS, Engineering and Technical Service Department. Dr. Olorunfemi was the head of that department. And as a youth corps member, I was given quite a lot of responsibility. I mean, I love this thing and I was good at it. During that time, they're trying to determine new petroleum prices. Where should the price be? So they done a lot of surveys which needed to be analyzed to see the mean and median and so on. Huge documents. What do we do with this? There was one university at Ahmadu Bello that had a statistical analysis package called SPSS.
SPSS.
So that was an option, and that was the option we took. So someone had to go with all those bales to Ahmadu Bello and feed it into the system, and then to do the analysis and recommend the median points. Normally, youth corpers were not allowed to go on, we call it trek, to go on outside job where you get a stipend, you stay in the hotel. They felt it was something
very important for them.
For staff to do. But because I was probably the most obvious person to do it, they made an exception. So I went to ABU for 2 weeks, working with Dr. Okere, who was the head of the department there. Eventually, he moved to the Lagos Business School. When I was a pioneer MBA at the Lagos Business School, I met him there again. And we did.
Which Dr. Okere is this?
Ezekiel,
okay.
And then brought the results back. And everybody was happy. So I thought that upon the completion of my youth corps, I will be offered an automatic place in NNPC. So I didn't actually spend so much time looking for a job. My bosses were all happy. Mrs. Ezekwe, Mr. Anyara. And then on the day of our discharge, I was waiting for
your certificate.
For my letter
for your letter of employment or confirmation.
I learned something in Nigeria called quota system. They say Imo State quota is full.
Wow.
So
as far back as back then.
Yeah. So I finished in 86 and I did my youth service in 87. Wow, panic set in. So I now started looking for a job. I'm not so sure there is any office or marina that doesn't have my CV.
Wow.
If they keep their records, they will have it. I dropped CVs everywhere. My shoe was halfway.
After delivering such an important project?
Yes, it was not because of competence as much as it was about the quota system. And if your quota, the quota of your state is exhausted, then it's exhausted. That's what I learned anyway. So there wasn't anything that any of my bosses could. I'm sure if probably there was a deep want, somebody could have again made an exception as I was allowed to travel as a youth corper. But I guess when it comes to high stake things like employment,
nobody cares about, especially in public service.
His own, everybody's looking out for himself. In any case, I got opportunity for interview at Shell. And there was a consulting company called Arthur Andersen. It's changed now.
Yes.
Now, I went for the Shell interview. It was a very known interview. Many people, and then they keep, reducing the numbers as you do the test. I got to the final stage, and I was very confident, but got a regrets letter.
Wow.
So that was Shell.
Out of the way.
Then I got a letter from Norchem, very happy. I looked at the date. The interview date had passed. We didn't have emails then. So
yes, if post your letter, yes.
Didn't deliver the letter. I went to Norchem very quickly the next morning and they say, well, there was a panel and they did the interview and they finished. You can't assemble the panel again, so sorry. So left with Arthur Andersen. And I continued in Arthur Andersen, did the last test, and I was invited for an interview with a gentleman called Toyin Muniz. There was another gentleman called Dr. Sulaiman, who was also in Atlantis. He was deputy to Toyin Muniz. Toyin Muniz was like the boss. And I met him and had an interview. And Toyin said, oh, fantastic. Any case, Dr. is not in. Well, I didn't call him Dr. He was calling him Dr. So come and see him on Monday, and then he will have a chat with you, and then you can start. The key word I heard was, you can start. So I went home very happy. I think I had a stabia. Waiting for Monday to come anxiously. At that time, I still had my NNPC pass. And so I got onto the NNPC bus, which used to go pick the staff. And it left as early as 7:30 at the bus stop and came to, I'm not so sure where the office was, on the road that goes to Eko Hotel. That's where Atlantis office was.
Yeah, it used to be then.
So I went in, I got in at about 7:45 and was waiting for this gentleman called Dotun. Where is this? I didn't know him. I told the receptionist. So I knew that they would call me when he was ready for me. Lunchtime, nothing. I say, if I go for lunch and this man calls me and I'm not there. I remember what happened at Norchem, National Oil Chemical Company. I'm not going anywhere. I'm sitting here with a hunger. I think about 3:45, I got ushered into the office of Dr. Sulaiman. He asked me, I think, 2 or 3 questions. How are you? What's your name? Okay, you hear from us. I said,
I thought you were meant to start
the interview. The hearing from Atlantis was another regret letter. Wow, at this point in time.
It's fascinating how you remember all these names. Well, go on.
It was deep. It was very deep. So there I was at home, thinking I was going to start at Anderson on either Monday or Tuesday, and I had no job, and no prospects. Then I saw an advert on Tuesdays in The Guardian. There were so many requests for job adverts. So I saved my money and bought Guardian every Tuesday, and I applied to any position.
Yeah.
And one of them came through a company called Tritech. New company startup in Ikeja, Adeni Jones. And the person that was starting that business was Dr. Awokoya. I later came to understand that his father was maybe the first commissioner for education in Lagos State. Or is it Western region? I'm not so sure. But he was coming from Harvard. And when I got there, I was wearing a shirt that I thought was a very nice shirt. That was the best shirt
that you had.
Ironed it very properly. And he said, okay, great. You're going to be starting here, but not in that shirt. I remember what he said. As a businessman, you should wear a white shirt, a blue shirt, a dark suit, and a burgundy tie. That's what he said. So I'm going to give you an advance of salary.
Really?
Get yourself a dark suit, 2 white shirts, 2 blue shirts, and 2 burgundy ties. And that's what I did. To today, I don't wear anything but a dark shirt, a blue shirt, a dark suit, and a burgundy tie. Because
really?
I'm changing the tie a bit. But that was the training he brought. And I worked with him for about a year. So I was doing everything. I was doing sales. I was doing support because I was doing software. And it became clear that the place was small. I won't be able to grow into anything more than what I was doing. It was just a startup. So I started looking for bigger companies. I applied to ICL, Inlax, JKK, DPMS, all the big companies. And I got a call from Inlax. Inlax was predominantly Indian owned, but they had computers and they had merchandise and so on in Ido, but the computers was in Ikoyi. And I remember that I had an interview with a guy called Rakesh, who was the head of
You
engineering.
still remember the names. Lord.
Yes, it was deep. And then after 3 questions, Rakesh says, excuse me, let's go and I'm going to take you to see someone. So we went to someone's office. Apparently that was the general manager. His name was Pramod Maitre. And then he said, I have good and bad news for you. Anytime I hear good and bad news,
you go back to...
they spoke in Hindi, so I couldn't hear what they were saying. But he said, listen, we don't have any space for programmer analyst, but we have a space for a salesman. So if you want, we can employ you as a sales executive. And then when there's an opening in programmer analyst, you could cross over. What am I going home to do? I said, yeah, I will. Never saw myself as a salesperson. I was very shy, reserved. And I used to see all the insurance people that used to come and sell things to us, and I used to feel sorry for them. So this is the job I was going to do. But I told myself, for such a short time. And I was doing quite a good job because I understood what I was selling. I mean, when I was doing my youth call, they were setting up a new department called LNG in Adiola Hopewell.
Yeah.
And
that's under NNPC
under
at the time.
NNPC.
Yeah.
The person that came to head that department was Dr. Maje Kodumi. Half caste, I think. And he had this computer system, and they said they were waiting for the NNPC people from the computer center from Onikon.
Wow.
To come and install that system. This was what I was doing when I was in ETSD. And it's very simple actually to install it. It has 2 disk systems, and then it will say insert disk 1, do this, do that. Take it out, insert disk 2. You will install the operating system. You install Lotus 1, 2, 3. You install WordPerfect. So I just did that. And when I had finished, just about 2 people walked in with some like lab coats, big people with gray beards and so on. They said they had come to install Dr. Maje Kodumi's system. And I said, I just finished installing it. Big trouble. Who asked you? Do you have any requests to... I don't know, it was just there. And he mentioned that, people were going to come and install it, but I could do it, so I've done it. I didn't know that the protocol in government was like that. You need permission to do what you can do. In any case, I got into some trouble. But in any case, I wasn't retained at NNPC. And Dr. Maje Kodumi continued using the system. Nothing was amiss. It was properly done. So I understood that. And when you are going to be selling something that you understood, it was very simple. You use simple words. You don't cram big technical terms that intimidates the customer. So I did very well. And every once in a while, I'll go back to Pramod Maitre. So now I was reporting not to Rakesh, who is the head of engineering, but to Pramod Maitre. Is there any opening in the systems and programmer department? And they said, no. But I saw people
leaving.
Coming,
coming. Joining the department.
Yeah, so it means there is space. So what I think they said to themselves in Hindi was, this guy looks more like a sales-oriented person, so let's keep him in sales. Till today, I've not gone back to the systems analyst program department. I've been doing sales. Through the sales, you get into executive, then you get into management, you get into... so the programmer analyst was sort of what we young people like to say we're doing. It was sexy. But the career progression is faster in sales.
It is.
It's broader too. And then you get to learn directly from the from the bosses or the boss at that
Yes.
time. So my career progression was very fast. I remember in 1988, going to 89, because I was doing so well in sales, my boss called me and said, "You need a car." And he gave me a loan of 15,000 naira from the company, plus his own money of 7,000 naira, making 22. Then he told one of his lieutenants, Rajiv Bhatnagar, to go with me and get me a car. That was his assignment. We went to many places. Any car that I saw, the guy would say, "No, not this one." Because his boss had given him that assignment, it had to be perfect. And the boss money was in it. Luckily, there was someone who was going back to India in Laxido. He had a 504, done 80,000 kilometers, and he was selling it. So we bought it, and he agreed to the 22,000. That was my first car. The car had a name. His name was Danny Boy. That car opened so many doors because I was probably one of the first, to have a car just a year or 18 months after
working. Yeah.
I was invited to every party. I think I was a glorified driver, but
Well, at least that gave you some kind of status. Yeah.
So that's how I ended up more in commercial rather than technical.
How long were you in this organization for?
Exactly 4.5 years. And after that, I went to set up computer warehouse.
So you only had barely 6-7 years of working experience as an employee before CWG.
Yes.
So why did you set up CWG like at that time? Because it looks like we're looking at 92, 93.
91 is when I left.
92, and not a lot of people. Computer wasn't so sexy in Nigeria then. So how?
Necessity is a mother of invention. I think that somehow people, when they look at me, feel that they can trust me. And because I'm able to break things down into simple pieces, it makes them relax with my message. And in those days, there weren't so many computer companies. There were those ones I told you. But beyond those ones, there were the tier 2. So you had Charms, Micro Products, Cymoc, Computerize It, what's his name? Yeah. And they had taken up all the resellership of HP, Compaq,
IBM and all that.
IBM. And there wasn't much left. In fact, there wasn't anything left, except one company called Dell. Gateway was Alade Commons Charms, because Gateway was also new, but it's already been taken. But Dell, nobody wanted to touch because Dell did not produce to stock. Dell produced just in time.
Just in time.
So when you place the order breaks into pieces to the suppliers, and they will ship the parts to Dell. They'll put it together and then ship it to you. So many companies were not planful. If you are not planful, you cannot do just in time because you need to order it a month before you need it.
Yeah.
But people just want to go into a company and say, "Do you have stock?" and buy the stock. But that was what was left. So I signed up with Dell. And because there was another company that was also doing Dell, but on a very small scale. And when I signed up with Dell, they were so happy that they opened up all their white papers to me. In fact, that Adelabu office, they used to call it Dell Bus Stop. Because everybody knew if you wanted Dell,
he was there.
This is where you...
I think there was Dell on the sign.
There was
on the wall.
Dell
Yes, I remember on the building, big Dell. Yes, I remember.
And I always used to cringe when they shouted, "Dell Bus Stop." I said, "Gosh, what is this?" It's conductors. But it made the place known. What really gave me a break in Dell or in CWG was there was a company called Ashaka Cement.
Which is now owned by WAPCO, Lafarge.
So,
Yeah.
Lafarge. It was a member of the Blue Circle, the Global Blue Circle Group.
Okay.
The computer manager was called Jack Kemp, expatriate, whose system had a problem, Dell system. But remember, Dell didn't have a partner in here. And when he wrote to Dell, they told him to contact CWG. I didn't even know that Ashaka was very far from Abuja. So I dispatched Suleiman Shaibu.
It's how you remember these names. God.
It was deep. I dispatched Suleiman Shaibu, who's our engineer. And I said, the only thing you can't fix is a monitor. Take a monitor with you and your toolbox, and they had some RAM chips and so on. And then see what is wrong with the system. And come back. He got to Abuja. It took him another 1 day to go to Ashaka. It's very far. I've not been to Ashaka myself till today, but and there wasn't mobile phones. So I was waiting to hear from Suleiman that he was on his way back. No word. It was when he got to Ashaka, he called and he said he had fixed the problem and he was on his way back. So I said, okay, so you'll be back this evening. He said, no, by this evening I'll be in Abuja.
Before he's now coming.
So Jack Kemp was so happy, that he didn't buy from us. We didn't ask questions. They asked us to help him, and then we helped him. And he wrote so many recommendation letters to us, to all the customers called global segment customers. Global segment customers of Dell were companies that had a global agreement with Dell that they will buy at a certain price. So there wasn't any bidding. They would just say, bring 40, 50. So ExxonMobil was a global segment customer. Guinness was a global segment customer. And he wrote recommendations to all these companies that this is a trustworthy company. And we got so much business from just that Ashaka.
At that time, how many employees did you have at the time?
About 6. So I had, the first person to join was Femi Adewumi, then Kingsley Odo, then Suleiman Shaibu, then Shei, who was at the reception, and who else? Then we had, I can't remember the name of the one person who was.
That's forgiving because it's the way you remember all their names.
So we're about 6. And as the business grew, we brought in more people, but we're very clear about who we're bringing in. My criteria was simple. There are 3 things which someone brings to the table. Character, competence, and commitment. These are the 3 C's. Of the 3, the one that I valued most was character. We could teach you competence. Commitment, there's nothing you could do. Either the person feels attached to the company and they will stay, or they are looking for the money and they will leave at the first person that offers 1 penny more. But before we started, you were talking about OC who left and he was very sad to leave. That's how deeply tied to CWG that the people that came in were typically, you find people who've been there for about 17 years, 15 years, 20 years. So once you came in and you saw how these people were conducting business, you felt that they were doing something special. And you wanted to be part of that something special that was bigger than you. So I'll give you an example. One of the customers that Jack Kemp wrote a letter to was ExxonMobil. And I remember the IT manager then, Mr. Ayodele, ordered systems, some Dell, some whatever. But when we delivered the Dell systems, there was something called mouse, which was new and was being introduced, was quite expensive.
At the time.
but Dell gave it as a promo. So when we went to deliver our own to ExxonMobil, we deliver it as it came, along with the mouse. They said, no, I didn't order mouse. I'm not going to pay for it. Take it aside. I say, sir, it's a promo. It's part of the system. It's a promo. And all these other people that came, they tried to
We're charging him. Oh, wow.
So, like Jack Kemp, he also
now started giving
us commendations. I think sometimes you have to take some steps back in order to fly an obstacle. And many times we feel that it's better to take the shortcut because it's tempting. So people will sign maintenance contracts at 5%, 7%, and they know that they will not deliver that maintenance contract. So if the company had a problem, they will just ignore them. But that comes in as additional margin. And we were charging 15% for maintenance contracts because if the monitor goes and our power is not stable, the cost of the monitor will eat all the maintenance on about 5 systems. So you have to look for a balance of where you are fair to the customer, but you're also sustainable. It was a difficult sell because we're always losing the bids. Our prices are competitive, but by the time we had the maintenance of 15%, whereas our competitors were charging 5 and 7%, we were not competitive. But they will not do the maintenance. So when the problem comes, they will then call us, and then we'll go and do the maintenance. And then the company said, so why don't we just buy from CWG since we are sure that, when we have problems, we will fix the problems. So we're set back in a lot of bids which we lost. But because we stuck to our guns, we're known that if you want it to work, just go to CWG. I mean,
you played the long game.
We played the long game. We still play the long game today. We play the long game because at the end of the day, the competitive advantage, which is not obvious, is the biggest one. And that competitive advantage in Nigeria, I can tell you for free, is trust. It's not lower pricing. If people see value in what you're doing, they'll pay the appropriate price for it. It's not the latest phone. It's trust.
Okay, let me try and segue a little bit now into you've lived the years as a founder, as a CEO. I mean, I guess at that time, it would be fair to say you were a startup at the time. So what would you say has been, like, how would you compare the tech startups of today, in Nigeria and the tech startups of when you started? For example, today, typical tech startup, they can raise funding. They would start at their pre-seed level, seed level, and all of that. So there were, over the last few years, a lot of investors who are happy to invest in startups, who have great ideas. But in your time, what was it like?
Let me be balanced in answering this question. Let me say that it's not possible to step into the same river twice because the river is flowing. So if you step in and you remove your leg, the water that was there
is gone.
So it won't be easy to compare what we're doing
your
there
time and now
with what is here because the river is constantly flowing. But I will attempt to put it in context. And the context is that the environment was tougher. We had 400,000 NITEL lines, telephone lines. And we had one line, 84 something. The 84 lines were analog. So they work today, they don't work tomorrow, and the day after. The only luck we had was that the NITEL people used to keep their ladder in our company, in our compound. So when they come in the morning, we'll block the ladder onto the
Onto this
sawdust
sort of line.
But you can imagine where your partners are trying to call you from overseas and your line is not working. That same line, we connected it to our fax machine. So when the good thing is that when we are sleeping, America is awake and we receive a lot of fax. But they can't, talk to you, and then you reply to the fax. So we gave them the telephone number of a business center down the road called Global Services also. So when they called, somebody from Global will rush
to you.
Come. Those people, they thought our company was big. They have to go far to go
and get to.
So they respected us. You see, sometimes
some of those things just work in your favor.
In our favor. But coming back to the point, when I wanted my first overdraft to meet an order, I think it was an order to Societe Generale also, there wasn't any way because you needed collateral. And I just started my business. I was renting my house. But the manager at the bank was very helpful. He said, "Do you have a television?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Put it there. Video, put it there." But those are not collateral. They are
movable items.
Put your car in there. I said, this car.
Danny boy.
And he knew that this guy will return the money unless something, people will tell you that if Austin owes you, he will sell his shirt and pay. So that's how I got my first overdraft. But once I had a history of overdraft, then I could get more and bigger.
More.
Yeah.
So funding was mostly bank finance at the time?
It was mostly bank finance. There wasn't all this Series A, Series nothing.
Was there pressure to be profitable early for you?
Because I was my own boss. I didn't owe anybody any explanation about the tightness of profit or not. As far as I knew, I was heading in the right direction. I was making the right investments. I was making the right margin. So my major concern was to meet the monthly bills, the quarterly bills, the yearly bills, as opposed to returning a huge profit. I knew that if I followed the process, eventually, with the economies of scale at the right price, the company will grow. But I was investing a lot in the company. I didn't have that Danny Boy. You see me going to deliver systems in Danny Boy. My mates were driving at that time. Honda cars were very
posh then, yes.
I had my 504. When the business grew, I bought someone, forgotten his name, and diplomat was leaving Nigeria, and he had put his car on Okere Club, station wagon. They used to call it long rope. So that was the second car, but also a 504 gray.
Yeah.
And that was now doing deliveries, and I was riding Danny Boy. What I remember making this point is that my salespeople used to get transport allowance to go and make sales. And I won't mention the name of the company, but it's a company next door to us, not too far. And their salespeople had Toyota Micra. Was it Micra? Nissan Micra or Micra, but what was written at the back of the car is Micra, small car. And my salespeople were like, Austin, look at our mates go to make sales calls in a car. How are we supposed to compete? But when the June 12, 1993 happened, anybody who had a loan was in trouble because we couldn't work. The loan was... And so the prudent ones like us were able to stay the course.
Continue.
The good thing about staying the course is that when things normalized, many companies had died and there was a pent-up of demand. So the few of us, we became very big quickly. But if I go back to your question, this was the situation, plus all the emerging market problems of policy inconsistency, infrastructure deficits, not enough into schools. So what you're getting out in terms of staff, you had to do training. They were all there. But in addition to that, there wasn't the ease of banking, for instance. Now you could do your banking on your phone. There wasn't the exposure to outside investors. So like PE firms coming in and putting money. It's all your own money. Friends, families, and any fools that put money in it. And it was more of organic growth.
For you.
So there are four competitive structures that we saw. I saw. The one was customer intimacy, which is very common. It's got its good and bad side. The bad side of customer intimacy is my uncle is GM at NNPC and he will rig everything for me,
Just to give you advantage.
The good side of customer intimacy is that you have understood the customer so well that you and him can work out his requirements and deliver it at the most efficient cost. So whenever he needs something, because he knows that he'll get value from you, he will buy from you. So if you take somebody who probably has a store in an estate, if that person is good at customer intimacy, he'll know when Mama Risi has delivered. Mama Risi probably forgot to buy diapers, but she will take diapers because she knows that you are just coming from hospital. That's the depth of customer intimacy that I'm talking about, to know the customer and what they will need.
What they need, yes.
At the time that they will need it, even if they don't know. So obsolescence is very high in technology. They want to buy this system. You say, well, don't buy it yet. Because there's
a new version
one
coming
out. So
out.
if you wait a month, just use the same one you're using. In a month's time, the new one will. But people that had stock will always want to sell old stock. So that gave us that trust in customer intimacy. The second strategy for competition is technology leadership. In fact, it should be the first. So Apple has that. Every 18 months, they have a new iPhone. So if you are cloning the one they had, or if you are catching up with their technology, they put a gap. Cisco has that. Microsoft had that. But we don't manufacture anything here. So it's difficult to compete on technology leadership. We take their technology and we add value to it. So that brings me to the third strategy for competition, which is service excellence. I mean, if you've traveled, you see that our DSTV is quite good. You get to watch almost everything. Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
But where, say in the UK, everything is paid for separately.
Yeah. Pay for view and all that stuff. Yeah.
But here you get
boxed in. Yeah, bookcase.
So that's fantastic. I mean, we can say anything about our mobile service, and it went down in the last year and a half because they were not investing, because they didn't have the money to invest. But now the price have gone up and they're investing. But it works, So service excellence is what we compete on, combined with customer intimacy. The last one is costs. Lowest cost.
Lowest cost.
Yeah. You want to be the one that has the cheapest. And my point why I don't compete on that is, one, I'd rather look at the value. If you see the value in what we're selling to you, you're very happy to pay it, unless you don't see the value or you don't appreciate the value. And if you don't appreciate the value, perhaps you are not our customer. But there are some companies, and some of my salesmen came and said, okay, why do we lose? Oh, this guy was cheaper than us. So I said, well, but if all I needed was people to sell it cheap, I'll just go to CMS myself and put it below the cost. I'll sell everything. So we don't look at that.
So you appreciate value more than price.
Yeah, it's the same way that I value direction over speed. But if you're in the wrong direction and you are going fast, in fact, you're getting lost very quickly. Sort out your direction, and then before you accelerate.
Okay, let's pivot to listing. You listed CWG on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. I think it was it 2001 or 2002?
Exactly on July 11, 2013.
2013. I beg your pardon. Sorry, 2013.
Exactly on
July 11, 2013. That is over 10 years now. And so for a lot of the maybe people watching who are startups today in Nigeria and have companies as well, they've grown and they're looking at listing, I'm sure they probably want to learn from you. What was it that made you list? Because a lot of Nigerian businesses don't list. People don't like to list. So likely just own the business and leave it out of listing. But you've listed and you've continued to remain a publicly quoted company since then. So why did you list?
Okay. I think that is the first place to start from. It's just like, why was I an entrepreneur? Was I born with it? Did I learn it? I think that's not the right question. The right question is, who volunteers to be an entrepreneur? And whoever puts his hand up, that is the entrepreneur. Now, listing, you've got to ask yourself, what are the objectives? Not because everybody is listing or because every business must list at a certain time. Why do I want to list? Now I look at my concept of a founder. I liken it to a mango tree, for instance. So at some point in time, the founder had vision and he had leaders who were able to interpret this vision into executable task, which the managers are able to execute. So we had the dreamer, we had the people that galvanize, and we had the people that do. Everybody cannot be visioning and everybody cannot be just doing. We need all three. So the visioner, which is the entrepreneur, is very idealistic, very optimistic. And you need someone to be holding his shirt sometimes. So I had Philip Obiora, who was my operations guy. Austin, this is too ambitious. So there are people that think in a steady way.
Yeah.
There are people that think radically, and there are people that think transformative. And I'm always between radical and transformative. So I need someone to ground me. I had Philip to
steady, radical, and transformative.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also know that when the mango tree starts germinating those little pods that become mangoes, they are lovely as they are growing and they are ripening. But I know that there's an optimum point where you need to pluck the mangoes, otherwise they will rot on the tree. So in my view, the lifespan of the entrepreneur, he knows everything. Then it gets to a point where you are stagnating. And the longer you stay, you begin to have diminishing returns. That's mango rotting. Now, if two things don't happen, you are locked in that trap. The first thing is a succession plan, because you know it's inevitable. The second thing is, what do you do after you leave? So you find many people have loads and tons of money, they've made commercial success, but that is their only source of relevance. And the fear is that if I leave, I'll not be relevant anymore. Forgetting that you're being there, you will get to a point where we learn, unlearn, and relearn. But the more you do the photocopy, the fainter it becomes. So there's a time where you need fresh ideas and fresh energy to augment the possibilities, then you create a new reality. If you miss that boat, you miss it here, you miss it here, you miss it there. It gets to a point where the company is worthless. So when you see a company, Okere and Sons, the implication, especially in Igbo land, is that there is an implied succession plan that the Jews have that as well, the Jewish people. But if you don't have that plan of succession, then it's better to look for a certain proven way that you can give sustainability to the company, which means you have to find a way where the company is held more to account. And what better way than it being a public company? Because when you are public, you are dancing naked in the marketplace. There's nothing to hide. People come to the AGM, they already have all the information. In fact, before we publish, Nairametrics has published. You can imagine. Nairametrics is where sometimes I go to see what we will publish. And then people come and quote, this is what Nairametrics said. Your cost to income has gone up or has gone down. The last time you published, you said it's gone down by 16% and it's now 46%. Nairametrics. Imagine the number of Nairametrics that are out there holding CWG to account. Now, if I hadn't listed, who will hold me to account? And as a founder, you are so powerful that your mistake can sink the company. And that's why I say that transformative and radical thinking, you still need the studies to say, slow down small, or have you looked at this from this point of view?
So listing was more about succession and longevity of the business.
Yeah.
So as far back as 2013, you had envisioned that this was a business that should outlive you.
Yes. You remember we started in 1992. By 2008, I'd said that we're going to list on the NASDAQ. Everybody was laughing. I'd said that we're going to de-risk from countries. So there were things that were in my head, and I executed them. First is in terms of concentration risk. We were just a Dell partner, a one-legged horse, and I felt no. If anything should happen, what do you file on? So we started a software company called Expert Edge, and we started a communications company called DCC, providing wide area network for banks and local area networks. And in our software company, we wrote our own application that banks were using, Equatorial Trust Bank, Oceanic Bank. At that time, we didn't have mobile banking. So we had a system called PC Bank and Telephone Bank. You needed to go to the bank to get your balance to write a check. So we wrote an application where you go to a NITEL booth. Not even sure young people know what a NITEL booth is. And you put in a code of numbers and it tell you your balance. You put in another code of numbers, it will tell you your last 10 transactions.
That sounds like a USSD of today.
That is the USSD of today. The only problem, it's not a problem, but the risking factor is that there is a firewall between the live database and the query. So when you make all your queries, if I wanted to withdraw some money, it goes to sit in the front until somebody passes it. Then it hits the database and the debit is made. But at least it was working for companies that needed to do a lot of transactions without mobile banking. They were using the system. And then we met a company called Infosys.
That's an Indian company.
We met them in 2009. And the way Providence works, 1999, the way Providence works, by year 2000, we had something called the Y2K bug.
Yes.
Which said that all systems will come to a standstill because of the number of registers to write. So you had year 2000, but you don't have year 20,000. So in 2000, it was going to be 000. And so we had about 86 banks. They all had their local software and they were now panicking. And so when Infosys met us, Infosys said, we will give you a provisional partnership. It will become a proper agreement when you bring your first customer. 1999. I flew to India with 3 LPUs in hand. Oceanic Bank, Comet Bank.
Comet Bank of the time.
And Standard Trust Bank told me. They said, wow, there's a good side to this story and there's a bad side. The good side is now you're a proven partner. The bad side is that we can't do 3 at a time. Because they themselves were growing so rapidly. And they didn't have the personnel to do 3 at a time in Nigeria. That was a good thing for us because they then needed to use our own people to do it. So normally the OEMs will shield you from some information, but they opened up everything to us because we needed to do the 3 at the same time. And so we became fantastic with the technology. And that is why we, out of the 27 banks, we provide core banking to 21.
Wow.
Because we are as good as Infosys. It's also...
And it was still the Infosys software.
Finacle.
Yeah, Finacle.
The last bank was GT.
Wow. And Finacle has been like the dominant software for banks.
It's not because of the system alone, but because of the understanding of the system by the locals. When Ebola came and there were no flights, the companies that had software that they didn't understand very well, their customers were struggling because normally you have the Indians flying now, but they cannot fly.
They cannot fly.
When COVID came, for 2 years, we couldn't fly. So bank said, why are we even going to India? These are the guys that are doing the thing. Just go to them. GT, First Bank, UBA, all of the whole lot. So the advantage of overloading them with 3 others at the same time was that we became forced to grow up very quickly. And that's an advantage till today. Then we said we'll de-risk by geography. So products, we're doing hardware, software, and communications, and we'll de-risk by geography. And so we opened Abuja and Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt first, which was very interesting. You always need an anchor customer. It makes it easier. Our anchor customer was Shell. And
why do you need an anchor customer? Sorry to digress a bit.
Now, if I go to Port Harcourt to open an office and I don't have already a customer that is buying from me, it means I'll have a long period where there are no sales.
And I'll have you can't run that office.
Okay. Yeah, it will be difficult. But if you already have an office, a customer, then that customer orders will cover that office. That's the anchor customer. We're trying to make Shell into an anchor customer in Port Harcourt. And I put in the application, everything. And I had 2 stumbling blocks. The first one happened when they came to our Lagos office to inspect. And they said, okay, great. You've shown you and Dell are tight. We are Dell global customer. What about your HSC policy? I started scratching my head. You know, all these oil companies,
they take this thing seriously.
Health, safety. And environment. Sorry, what is HSC policy? They said, these people are not ready for us. So we missed that chance.
Wow.
The next time, about 8 months later, we reapplied and they came to inspect. This time we've perfected the art. We had a place called Meeting Point. We had fire extinguisher. And we said we'll surprise these people. We'd already done the drill. When there's a fire, do this, do that. Then Samashu had been detailed to shout, fire, fire. So Sam shouted, fire, fire. They forgot to follow the instructions we told them during the briefing. And the briefing said, when you hear fire, fire, go through this staircase, arrive at the
meeting point or whatever.
We were at the meeting point. So they made us a partner. So these people have learned. The second stumbling block was, so where is your office in Port Harcourt? I hadn't thought about that. I said, oh, it's in GRA. Didn't have an office. So myself and the car hire service went about looking for. He told me there's somebody called Bob Manuel that had a house in GRA that had become vacant. So I went to see the Bob Manuel and he said yes. I told him it's going to be for an office. And say, okay, but it's who paid first. I brought out my check, wrote a big amount. There's not that amount of money. But I said, okay, please present this check on Tuesday. I was going back to Lagos on Friday. I put money in the account on Monday. And then
at least there's days for the check to clear.
Big office. But there wasn't anything in. So where's your office? I gave them the address. GRA, fantastic. so sometimes you have to anticipate because it's only when opportunity meets preparation, you get success.
Correct.
Yeah. But you have to anticipate. So there we had Abuja, Lagos, and Port Harcourt. But then I said, they're all in Nigeria. What if we need to operate somewhere outside Nigeria for the meantime? I mean, Sudan, Libya, they're all in war. Easy to make the first decision. My mother is Ghanaian. I went to school. They are classmates. I need a place, so we opened the Ghana office. Reasonably easy. They're all in West Africa. What about East Africa? So our anchor customer in East Africa was MTN. MTN was using Uganda as their support hub for East Africa. So we opened because we're doing $35 million with MTN in Nigeria and Ghana. So I knew that it would be
lucrative.
And then we said, okay, what about French speaking? We opened Cameroon. What about when you are bringing in systems and then you probably need some kind of a leverage? We opened Dubai,
So a lot of your decisions to expand were hinged on several things like geography, location, language, partners, so following your anchor partners as well, and then leverage as well in terms of partnership with OEMs.
Yes, that's correct. But don't also forget that you have to look at the macro environment. Ghana had discovered the Jubilee field, so oil and gas was going to boom. Uganda had discovered oil. And a lot of people say, why didn't you go to Kenya? And that became a big discussion in some of our boardrooms, heated ones. Because Uganda took time. Even though we had an anchor customer, you can't run the company with only one customer. It took time to break even. And then it was like, why not Angola? Why not Kenya? I said, well, trust the process. Why did we go to Uganda? Let's assume we are not there. Let's bring a blank sheet of paper. And let's write on that sheet of paper reasons why we should go, reasons why we should not go. Let's be dispassionate. Forget that we are there. And if those reasons point you to Uganda still, it's the right decision. If not, then it's wrong. So those are the things that I mentioned. The anchor customer was there. It was going to be a hub for East Africa. They discovered oil. And it wasn't going to be as difficult as Kenya because Kenya was well served, especially by the Indian community who had been there for centuries. But remember that Idi Amin drove out the community from Uganda. So there is a vacuum, sort of, and it was easier to fill it. As I speak to you today is Uganda's 15th anniversary. They've been sending me pictures of the anniversary celebration.
That's CWG operations.
CWG Uganda. And they contribute 25% of the revenues.
Wow.
The thing that we're querying, Austin, when are you going to shut down Uganda? It's not a question of when are you going to shut it down. Are the fundamentals right? If they are right, then it's the right decision. You just have to stay the course. If they are wrong, then we cut our losses and move on. And I'm always happy to admit that maybe we didn't look at the fundamentals correctly, but that was very clear in my mind.
Okay, let's talk about succession. I mean, time is fast flown already. You've had a seamless succession for some time now, and incidentally, I was at a conference where succession was a big issue, was a big topical discussion there, and people have often talked about, founders or business leaders not leaving and continuing to cling on to their business instead of moving on to something else and allowing more competent people to run it. So how have you been able to pass the baton so seamlessly and still have time to face other things that you're more passionate about?
I think there are three factors here about succession. People think that succession is only titular, which means that the founder should step aside and somebody else younger and maybe with fresh ideas. That is one. But there is also internal succession. The key positions in the company, which are single points, the critical places, need to have succession. So that guy that when he goes on leave, we are held to ransom, need to have succession. And the way we did it in CWG is to imply the succession in the company itself. So people typically will come into the company with one skill, maybe they are accountants. We call them I person. But we encourage you to pick up another discipline on top of your deep discipline. So you become a T person. So you came in as a salesperson. You are selling technology systems. So you know about the technology. That's a T. But we even prefer an H person. So you came in as a salesperson. You do the technology, but know about finance. So that you know about pricing, value, and so on. Sometimes salespeople are always fighting with the finance people because the finance people say you can't sell at this. But let him understand by himself what is the optimum price to sell to be fair to the customer and himself. But the best people are the four square people, four skills. So come at sales, you know your technology, and then you know your finance. But you may also want to add things like empathy, HR, because we need to keep our people. People don't leave the company, they leave their managers. So if you understand that aspect, then we've put in a matrix of succession. Then we can face the titular succession. Now, if you do the titular succession quickly and you haven't done this matrix succession, the new person coming in may be weighed down by the responsibility and he will crumble. So the way we did it is, also, the founder needs to have found something. So commercial success is key, given everybody is looking for how to make that living that will make the family comfortable. That's commercial success. You have achieved it. But you now have to look at giving back. And that's what I call the cultural legacy. So I'm on my cultural legacy journey. If you don't have a cultural legacy journey, like Mo Ibrahim, when he started Celtel, he made a lot of money from Celtel. But now he's focusing on Mo Ibrahim Foundation. Bill Gates made a lot of money from Microsoft. But now his time is in the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Same with, I don't know to what extent, but Danjuma. But if you don't have something that is calling you, then you sit tight. So that's another thing. But having said that, when I announced that I was leaving in 2015, we listed in 2013. I was itchy to leave because I thought I would leave in 2012 when I would have done 20 years. My wife was certain that this guy is coming home. And then we took money, $10 million from the PE company in 2009. And they said, but where are you going? Read your contract. You have to give us an exit before you go. A liquidity event. Either you buy us out at 3 times what we brought in or you list. I said, oh, yeah. I didn't see that key man risk. So read your contract. It's my advice to young entrepreneurs. So I listed in 2013. But again, you can't just list and say, I'm leaving. It's like you're running away from something. So I stayed 2 more years. But 2015, I was very clear that was it. Our chairman, Chief Willie Belong, who was the executive vice chairman of Mo before he retired, very experienced man. I told him, Chief, I would like to be leaving by the end of December 2015. Austin, where are you going? You are such a young man. So I'm not so sure that the company itself saw themselves beyond Austin Okere at the helm. So there wasn't a very strong input to get a succession plan going. So I remember that the fourth quarter board meeting, I said, Chief, please, may I see you before we go into the board? And I said, okay, I've identified somebody from internal, everything will be fine. He said, okay, great. I can see you are itchy to go. But can you give us time to break this new leadership in? How many days can you work? A week. It was before COVID, so everybody was working 5 days a week. I said, I can do 3 days. So I'd like to take Monday and Friday off so that I have a long weekend. So for 2 years, I was doing that, breaking the new people in. And then 2017, December, I now finish my executive duties.
So was that COVID or Ebola?
2018.
Yeah, COVID was 2020.
COVID was COVID-19. It was mid-2019.
No, COVID was mid-2020. It was April 2020.
April 2020.
Yes.
But I think 2019, the reason why it's called COVID-19
was because it broke in December 2019. Yeah.
Yes. So this was all before COVID.
Okay.
2017, December.
Yes.
At that time, I think they gave me a title, Executive Vice Chairman, because I was still in executive and I was not. I felt that the time had come and the team had sufficient succession in and at the titular. And then I went to start the Also Leadership Academy, and it's been the same thing. But we were prepared. It took 2 years to leave. If you do things in a seamless manner, then you can be sure that it is sustainable. But if you do it as if you are roasting corn in a hot fire, the corn got burnt, but the inside may not be cooked. And that's what it is. But the CEO or the founder must see what he's going to do so that he will not sabotage his own process. And he must have put all these things in place.
Did you, at any point in time, feel the need to maybe intervene? Because I guess sometimes some people feel when you left, if you're a founder, you've left, you shouldn't even bother about what's happening in the company again. Is that how it's been? Or once in a while, at least, being a founder, isn't there some kind of emotional attachment to that business, even though you've left?
Well, the emotional attachment is like your kid. Yours is probably teenager. Even when he becomes 30, you're still attached to him as a dad, and you support him in any way, but you will not be in his business every day. Okay. So when you're a founder that has retired, when you were there, your instruments were your hands. You were doing. When you're a founder that has retired, your instruments is your eyes. You see, you point out, but you don't do. Hold yourself from doing, because otherwise, then you've not left. Yeah. So you find that some of the banks may have a CEO who is chairman. I just refuse to be chairman, because at the end of the day, people will still see you as
the person in charge.
Yeah. So I'm on the board as a non-executive. Whenever there is some blind spots, I point it out. We provide strategic direction. We make sure that the sustainability of the company is assured by internal succession, and also making sure that there is a dashboard of who are the successors if this or that. It's an uncomfortable discussion, but a very necessary one, because this is a public company and we owe it as a duty of care to keep it sustainable. We don't owe anybody an individual duty that is more than anybody else. So equal. Everybody is seen as equal as part of the shareholders. And we'll do that to the best of our ability, fiduciary-wise and non-fiduciary.
Okay, let's close with Aso Business Academy. That is what has been taking a lot of your time, I guess, since you left CWG as CEO. For a lot of people, even in this entrepreneurial journey or journey of man, there's a certain level you get to, even if you look at Maslow's theory, you want to give back. And most people tend to give back through maybe foundations and things. But yours has been giving back through this academy. And I know a lot of founders that have gone through your academy, and they've always, if some of them that you probably don't know that I've spoken to, have always told me how important it was to their entrepreneurial journey. Why did you move into this space?
It's not a new space to me, the empowerment, I call it. So my passion is shared prosperity. I believe that a rich man amongst poor people is poor. So a rising tide lifts all boats. Let's lift all boats. And you may say, oh, I'm too little to make a difference. But if every little drop is collected, we'll make an ocean. So in CWG, it got to a time when the OEMs were coming in directly into the country. Before, when it was a military government, Abacha and so on, they were very happy to stay back and then get their partners, resellers, to do the business. Then they got greedy? They went in and competing with us, doubling salaries of our, tripling salaries. And how do we survive? What came to me was to open what we call the CWG Academy. So the CWG Academy took rookies and put them there in 3 months. Because they are in a practical environment, after 3 months, you know the difference between a graduate of the academy and somebody doing the job. And young people are already technology savvy and learn very quickly. So the academy was what saved us. And that academy has saved not just us, but our industry. Because we train and the banks take them, we train and the competitors take them, and we just keep training people. It's expanded. Now they want a whole building for academy. We take in about 50 people in a cohort, and we do about 4 cohorts. But the requirement is about 300 people. So we're taking a sixth.
When you said the requirement, the demand.
We have to keep people.
Do they pay for this?
They pay, because otherwise, then how do you value it?
Yeah.
But people are happy to get a space in the CWG Academy as if it was a university. And many people, I think part of the reason why people are keen about it is that a lot of people then migrate overseas with their academic qualifications. They now find themselves on $7,000 per, and sometimes they are here and working. So the academy is very popular. But I would wish that we can take in more people. So I've encouraged them that increase it, but don't let it distract. We're not a training house.
School.
Yeah, not a school. So that's one. Then when I was running CWG, I got into what we call the EY Entrepreneur of the Year, because they were like, wow, how is this guy doing it? I remember that in the finals of the EY Entrepreneur
As the global finals?
The Nigerian finals.
Nigerian finals, okay.
I was in there was Seplat and there was CWG. And the CEO of Seplat was Austin Avuru. And I was Austin Okere. Okay. And then at Ikoyi Hotel, they say, and the winner is Austin. Both of us stood up. But it was Avuru. So they said, come with us to Monaco. So I went to Monaco.
I have been there as well.
We didn't win in Monaco. I mean, there was another company that won. But
also, you were part of the finalists in Monaco as well, along with Seplat.
No, the rule was one per
one company. Yeah,
but they just wanted me to come along
as well.
To support.
Yes, okay, but Seplat didn't win.
They didn't win. Austin and I became fantastic friends. In fact, he was the first person to send people from Seplat to the academy. And we had a very good chemistry. I really love that guy. So the good part of it is that as a result, Columbia Business School now did a case study on CWG. They sent people to embed with us and our customers and the regulators for 2 weeks because they wanted to be sure that there won't be any stone in the rice. Money is genuine and all that. And they wrote a case study. The Chazan Institute funded that case study. They had a lot of African students, but not enough African case studies. So they used that case studies to teach what they call foundations of entrepreneurship, especially in emerging markets. And then I was invited to debrief the case once, twice. And they said, listen, this is becoming a very popular case. So can you join our faculty?
Wow.
As an entrepreneur in residence? So that's how I joined Columbia. And so in that learning space, I had CWG Academy, I had Columbia. Then MIT was interested for the same reason. They had African students and not enough African cases. So they did both a case study and a video case study sponsored by MasterCard Foundation. So the CWG case study is also taught at MIT. But I can't be an entrepreneur in residence in both. I decided to stay in Columbia. And then I got invited to the World Economic Forum onto the Global Agenda Council for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And from there, I got invited to the Global Business School Network on the advisory board, accrediting business schools and looking at curriculum and so on. Then I got invited into what we call the Association for Advancement of Collegiate Schools of Business, AACSB. So in that education space, I already was clear about my onions. And I felt if I wanted to make an impact, this is the best way to do it. So I set up the Also Leadership Academy, ALA for short. It's CWG Academy, Also Leadership Academy. One was technology, one was business. And the idea was to empower these young entrepreneurs. But when the big companies saw that the people they sent to the Also Leadership Academy were outshining some of the people that had gone to so-called big business schools, they themselves came to hire us as corporate. So you find that Chi, for instance, which is used to be a subsidiary of Coca-Cola, but now
it's been sold here.
Yes, to
I think TGI, isn't it?
Not TGI. TGI was Guinness. It was sold to the food people that own Mr. Biggs, UAC.
I beg your pardon, UAC.
Old Mutual, Harco Industries, CWG itself. So those corporates then started hiring us to impact the top 25 people in the business because they need to work lock in step, align, cascade the objectives. So we help them to figure out, what am I going to be in 5 years? What are the numerical measures of success? That's what we call the North Star. And then what is my year one battle cry towards that North Star? And what is my numerical measures of success? But that numerical number of success is not going to deliver itself. The Irish say that nodding the head does not rule the boat. So there are some big tasks that need to be done to deliver those. What we do is bring a relentless focus on the execution of the priorities for that year. Don't go left, don't go. There's so many important things, but these are the ones we want to do this year. Next year, we'll do something else. Next year, we'll do something. And then we'll look at the 5 years, whether we've reached. It's a fantastic program. I'm not the originator of it. I myself benefited from that program when I was in CWG. So I went to bring the guy that was doing it to be my partner. And it's been phenomenal.
Wow. So finally, I know we've gone past the 1 hour. And this is fascinating about Nigerian entrepreneurs of today. I mean, considering how tough the economy has been, the business environment, getting a loan is a lot more difficult now. Even getting funding is tighter now. And purchasing power is largely decimated for a lot of people. So price point is a problem. There's a lot more competition now because of technology. So what is it about the entrepreneur of today that I guess maybe gives you some kind of encouragement, if I can put it that way?
There is something that an entrepreneur needs to have as a mantra. The Chinese use the same word for challenge and opportunity. The Chinese character for challenge is door of opportunity. Same. So challenge is written as door of opportunity. The intrinsic nature of the Nigerian is that die-hard nature of his. And that die-hard fits into what I called the in spite of mindset. But you need to coach the Nigerian to switch from a mentality of because of to a mentality of in spite of. So I went somewhere to give a talk today. We started about 50 minutes late, and the reason is because it rained. I got there an hour earlier in spite of
the rain. I see.
So it depends on your mindset. And a lot of people are in the mindset of because of. If you shift, and any time you are tempted to say because of, you substitute that with in spite of, then that's your nature of, how do we call it, Nigerian
factor, or whatever.
Yeah, will be positively deployed, because it is that same that differentiates the Jewish people. We have it, but it's recessive. It's not dominant in our thinking, because we're always looking for the because of instead of striving for the in spite of. I also want to mention that once you shift that mindset, there's a lady that runs a company called 83. Her name is Tosin Adefeko.
I call her Madam Tosh.
Oh, you know her?
Yes.
So she was doing her business. She's worked in many advertisement agencies, big ones. And she was doing her business from the boot of her car. And she was happy. And she came for the program. I went to speak as a keynote at Wimby's conference. I was a keynote speaker for I don't know what year. And she came forward and said, listen, I'm coming for this, your program. I mentioned the program there, and she came. I have a picture of her sitting on the floor, learning finance, And Tosin went on to sign a very big global corporate, bought her own building in Ikoyi. It just tells you what is possible. Just one. And there's so many examples of that. Even the big corporates we've done impacts for, and I'm not so sure I'm at liberty to mention their names. They've doubled their turnover. They've tripled their profit. You just have to awaken the giants.
So are you saying that the entrepreneur of today needs to change this, doesn't have this mindset, doesn't have this in spite of mindset?
Doesn't have the mindset. He has the ability, but doesn't have the mindset. But he also needs to be coached on the methodology. We have a methodology which is called mission leadership. We didn't invent it. So you wonder, why was it that the Roman Empire was ruling half of the world, maybe 3/4 at a certain time? The methodology of the Roman army is what we use. It's called mission leadership. And mission leadership works in a manner that the general, before the battle, transmits his plan to his, at that time in the Roman Empire, it's called the Senate, but we call it the ESCO. But the ESCO is not where the rubber meets the road. There is a level below. That level below, it can serve as a sieve, which means it allows the message to go down to the people, or cement.
Where it just blocks it. Yeah.
You know, and in spite of themselves, people don't know whether they're sieves or cement. But when you bring them together, and we all know what you, the boss, is targeting to achieve, the big goal for this year. I know my plan in that, what you want to do. He knows, and I know his, and we all do it. We all know. And then we challenge and harden all our plans. So when we leave, we're going to press play. Don't worry about my own. Just do your own. There's no overlap. There's no gap. So it's like synchronized swimming. If you worry about the next person to you in the synchronized swimming, you spoil the whole pattern.
Yes.
Worry about yours and make sure that you score that high 10/10. That's how we're going to win. It sounds simple, but there's a process behind it. And that process is what the Roman Empire used to rule us. So when soldiers say they are going to send us for course and so on, they're just going to do mission leadership. That's why when there's trouble in the world anywhere, you bring in the soldiers because you know they'll sort it out. But they are not built to be in a civilian environment for a long time.
Yeah.
That's for
so that's what in the short term.
But they'll sort it out. So you go into a business, they know where they want to get. We've helped them to determine where they want to get to. Sometimes you just need to fix the foundation. Fixing the foundation is different from accelerating growth. Because if the foundation is not properly fixed and you are paddling the boat furiously, it may overturn. If you want to balance the boat, put number of people here equal to number of people there. It's different from everybody paddling at breakneck speed. I'm not trying to do an MBA for you. You should come to the Auto Leadership Academy to do that.
I will, definitely. Last question before we go. I'm sure the guys here are like, how many times to go? Going to say last question. Last question before I go. And this is on compensation. Just to get your thoughts on, for the world we're in today, kind of similar to what you faced where, at that time as well, compensation were changing. You had a lot of technology companies that were probably paying more than you. So for the entrepreneurs of today, and in a world where you can easily sit here and earn FX abroad, how do companies position themselves, or entrepreneurs or businesses position themselves to compete? You've talked about the different ways that people, your competition strategy. You've talked about technology. You've talked about service, low cost, customer intimacy. So in terms of compensation and retention of people, what do you suggest entrepreneurs do now? So
Nigerians are entrepreneurial by nature. Mm-hmm. But when they find themselves working in the corporate, they push that trait of them so low. They're just looking at the pay packet.
Big paper, okay.
They don't want to bring their entrepreneurial self into the business. So there are two words very close related. One is entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. You go out to set up and do your own business. But there's another one called intrapreneurship, where you practice entrepreneurship in the business. Okay. Like Satya Nadella, for instance. Okay. He's not an entrepreneur.
He's an entrepreneur.
Sundar Pichai is also.
So Sundar Pichai is CEO of Google.
Yeah, but it's not his business. Yeah. But he's running as an entrepreneur. So he's an entrepreneur. I went to CWG to visit. Homecoming, they call it. I was just going to say hello to the CEO, and I saw a guard of parade, and oh my God. And I was like, gosh. They said, oh, come and address the people. They've been longing to see you. Some haven't met you. So I thought, what can I leave to make the most impact in their lives? And I thought the best thing is to awaken their entrepreneurship. No matter how much you pay, somebody can pay more. So the first thing is the emotional quotient has to be high. People have to believe that we're doing something here special. Not just internally, but outsiders have to believe that CWG is doing something special. The same way people believe that Liverpool is doing something special. Or
and Arsenal.
And Arsenal is doing something special.
Yes.
Or PSG. So people will take a pay cut to go to those places because they want to be part of that something special. So first and foremost, we have to create that. The people that serve the customer are the staff. If the staff are happy, there's a very high chance that the customer will be happy. If the staff are not, there's a very high chance that the customer will not be happy. So we need to ensure that when we're giving feedback to the staff, we give it with care, C-A-R-E, care. C is clarity, A is accurate, R is relevant, and E is give an example. Don't say, Ugo, you always come late. It doesn't mean anything. But if I say on Tuesday, we had a meeting with Vanguard, I was there and you were late. In fact, the MD noticed. It's very clear. And I've given you an example.
Yeah.
So you receive that feedback positively. But we also have to find things to praise. We always look for things to condemn. And failure feeds on itself, success feeds on itself. So the more we find things to praise, the more people do things so that they'll be praised.
They'll be praised,
So sort that side out. People are now happy to stay. Comes the money part because they cannot eat emotional quotient as money. And that's where the entrepreneurial part of them needs to be awoken. So I said to them, bring out your calculator. They did. I said, first, have you read Nairametrics report on CWG half year? Some had, some hadn't. But the share price had done 200% in the year.
Yes.
It means if you had put in 100, it would be about 300.
300. Yep.
If you put in 3 million, it would be 9 million. If you put in 10 million, it will be 90 million. Hold that thought. Now, on your calculator, there is a function called compound interest. I said, open that calculator and put in ₦1 million. Then it will ask you how much monthly do you want to put in. Put in 10,000, don't put in much. Then it will ask you for how many years. Let's say your working life is 20, put in 20. When they did the arithmetic, it's 38 million. How much will you get for pension? But this is your own pension.
Mm-hmm.
But don't even keep it in money. Because if you want a multiplier, put in 1 million CWG shares. Be buying 10,000 every year. So instead of it being times 3, it's times 9.
Times 9.
Because already CWG is doing times 3 plus the compound interest of times 3. So instead of ending up with 38 million, you are going to end up with over 100 million. It's a difference. And you need to see that as part of the total package of remuneration because it's bigger than your salary.
Of course. Of course.
Then the third element is people want to have skin in the game and they want to benefit from the skin. So CWG always has 2 ways of compensation, fixed and variable. So everybody in the company gets their fixed salary, but there's a variable part that comes from the profit. We call it commission. So based on some parameters, everybody goes home. Banks have it, but they do it once a year. CWG is tied to the success. So it's not only us getting dividend. They themselves know
also get
that if the numbers pan out right, I got money in my pocket. So there are 3. Your fixed salary, which we all focus on. Then there is the variable salary. And then there is your own effort at entrepreneuring your money instead of just leaving it in the bank at 8%. They are very happy. They're very happy.
All right, fantastic. This has been the coffee table, probably one of the longest episodes that I've had in a while, and it has been enthralling. It has been highly informative. For me sitting down here, you can imagine what it feels like speaking with Austin Okere. I'm pretty sure that this is one of those episodes where we're going to have different bite sizes so that you are the reason why we do the coffee table can benefit from this. Of course, if you want to visit his academy, it's right there on the screen, on the comment section as well on the screen. You should attend just to get more from him. Thank you very much, sir, for being on the coffee table.
Let
Any
me
last
give
comment?
you a gift.
Okay.
And the gift is to your people.
Okay.
What sustained me when I was building myself, my business, is what I call the 3 W's. The 3 W's, the first one is way power. The first W is way power.
Willpower. Way power.
Way power is speaking to aptitude. Way power is learning everything about the business you are in. So Ugodre, you are very good at what you do, but it's not enough. You need to learn, unlearn, and relearn all the time. So that is your way power. It speaks to broadening your knowledge in your area. It's competence-based. The second W is willpower. That speaks to your attitude. There is nothing that says that your road will be smooth. But everything says that if you fall down 7 times, stand up 8.
Yeah.
And even when people say, Ugo, listen, give up and go and get a job, it could be that in that last mile, there is a light. Unless you are convinced, it's your life. It's nobody else's life. So unless you are convinced, have that willpower. The last W, which is the most important and the one that most eludes Nigerians, is weight power.
Weight power.
It speaks to patience.
W-A-I-T.
It speaks to patience. Because when you plant cocoa, which we plant in the Southwest, it's different from planting corn. If you plant corn 3 months after rains, the corn comes, but you harvest it once. You plant cocoa, it takes 5 years to give you the first fruit, feed you for life. Now, if you don't have patience because your neighbor's corn is harvesting, you go and cut down all your cocoa and plant corn. You've lost. And I say this because a lot of our entrepreneurs are happy to just want to raise money, and then they put it on social media, then they get so much money, and then they are going to buy cars and so on. But each time you're raising money, you are diluted. Have patience. Don't harvest the seed. Nurture the seed. Let it grow into fruit, and then sell at the fruit. Real power,
Weight
power, and way power. Don't sell your seeds. Sell your fruit.
And with that, we close today's episode of The Coffee Table. Thank you so much for that gift, Sha. Until we do this again next time, do have a profitable day ahead. Goodbye.